With the indictment of Governor Rick Perry and the criminalization of the political process here in Texas, we're sitting down today with former House Majority Leader Tom DeLay. Congressman, welcome to Breitbart, Texas.
Well, it's great. It's always great to be in Texas. People think I left, but I'm still here.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Now, you have become a victim in the past of the political persecutions out of the Travis County DA's office. Tell us a little bit about what you went through with that and how that ties into what Governor Perry's going through right now.
Well, first of all, I'm not whining. I'm just telling you the facts. My ordeal actually is 18 years long, and it proves the criminalization of politics and the politics of personal destruction. In 1996, Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi and Patrick Kennedy announced to the world that they were going to take down this corrupt Tom DeLay. At the time, I was the majority whip in the U.S. House of Representatives. We had just finished the contract with America. They didn't like it very much, and they were going to take out the guy who provides the votes for our agenda. That's when I got my first ethics charges in '96. Frivolous, dismissed. More ethics charges in '98, frivolous, dismissed. I even had a racketeering suit filed against me by Pat Kennedy. A racketeering suit. It was dismissed by a judge in 6 months. More ethics charges in 2000. And then in 2005, I was indicted by Ronnie Earl, the district attorney of Travis County, who had gone through multiple grand juries. One of them had no-billed me. And found
went through 3 grand juries, right?
3 grand juries. One of them, the one he finally found, was just sworn in, hadn't even been through orientation. He had to get an indictment that day because the statute of limitations runs out that day. And he indicted me on frankly, a law that doesn't exist in Texas, money laundering to violate the election code, which is not a law in Texas. But he was able to get a grand jury from Travis County, the People's Republic of Travis County, and they indicted me, and took 5 years to get to a trial. Then my jury was picked from Travis County. We tried to move the trial to outside of Travis County, and that was denied by the judge. And I was tried and convicted by a jury made up of a bunch of liberal Democrats, and we expected that. Then I went 3 years to the Third Court of Appeals. It took 3 years for a ruling, and they totally exonerated me, including in the ruling they admonished the district attorney of Travis County and the judge, and then the prosecution appealed that ruling, so it's been a year. I'm in the Court of Criminal Appeals.
And you've already had the oral arguments on that. We're just waiting for the judge's ruling on that at the time.
Yeah, they could come as soon as September, or they could take a year or 2 years. It's up to the judges. There's no time limits on these kinds of things.
And this isn't the first time that Ronnie Earl would go after a person for political purposes. Obviously, Kay Bailey Hutchison was a prior victim of that. In her case, it didn't even go to court. He ended up not even
Well,
making
actually,
an
it
open
did
argument.
go to court, and his case just absolutely imploded the day they went to trial, and the judge kicked them all out of his courtroom. But yeah, this Ronnie Earl, for 20 or 30 years, was district attorney over this public integrity unit, and used it for his political gain. He used it to intimidate elected officials, Democrat or Republican. If he wanted something done, he let it be known that an investigation was going to be started. Well, an elected official just goes nuts if they're investigated by some law enforcement group. So he's always been able to get what he wants. And he has indicted Democrats, his political enemies that are Democrats too. So it's very well known in Texas that Ronnie Earl abused his office, and now Rosemary Lindbergh, his right-hand woman, has abused it too.
Now, in the governor's case, he's not running for re-election again, but of course it's thought that he's going to be running for President of the United States in 2016. Do you see this as an attempt to try to knock him out early before he could get any traction in the campaign?
I see it as an attempt at all different levels. One is a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
When he came out and demanded that Rosemary Lindbergh, because of her DUI, resign her office, right then she had put a target on his chest. And then when he vetoed money to her office, I'm sure she took it personally, knowing her, and she's going to use everything that she has to go after him. And so for the last year they've been investigating, looking at ways that they could indict him. But it's also a political move that has larger implications and ramifications, and I'm sure she's working with Democrats on the outside. Certainly, well, I know she is working with Democrats on the outside to set Rick Perry up for failure. Right.
It's interesting, in your case, it was actually a House rule, a Republican House rule, that the Democrats don't have, that enabled them to leverage that power against you, and that all they had to do was get an indictment,
right,
and even a meaningless indictment, and you had to step down as the House Majority Leader.
Yeah, when we came in for the majority for the first time in really 60 years, we did all kinds of reforms, and one of the stupid reforms that we did was pass this rule only as a Republican. If one of the leaders were indicted, they had to step aside temporarily. Well, if you're indicted, there's no temporary to it. You just got to step aside. Democrats don't have the same rule. So the stupidity of it is we put the Democrats in charge of deciding who our leaders are going to be, just by running around and finding a rogue district attorney like Ronnie Earl to get an indictment, then DeLay's done. And that's actually what happened.
And what an amazing piece of power that we gave to, that the House Majority Leader of the United States could be removed by just some little county district attorney is just unbelievable.
Well, the office itself is unconstitutional in my mind, in that the locally elected district attorney has statewide jurisdiction. That's just unconstitutional. And not only that, in the process of this office going after people like me, a U.S. congressman, not a state official, at the very least, I should have been tried in my home county. Because what you're dealing with is nullifying people's vote.
Right.
And the people that put me into office ought to be the people that serve on my jury. So that's another constitutional question that needs to be answered. There's just, I guarantee you, I've got a list of reforms a mile long of the judiciary if I ever got the chance to do anything about it.
Now, this history of the Travis County District Attorney's Office, that goes back even further than the Kay Bailey Hutchison issue. 20, 30 years back into history. What do we need to do with the upcoming legislative session to address this issue as Texans, to ensure that that one county district attorney's office doesn't have this kind of power over a federal position, and doing political destruction to any elected official that they want to?
Well, first of all, you have to get it out of Travis County. And my suggestion would be, I think you need a public integrity unit if there's something that needs to be dealt with. One way is for the state legislature itself to have an ethics committee, which they don't have, or you put it in a state agency. There is a Texas Ethics Commission. I'm not sure I would put it there, but my suggestion was to create this public integrity unit within the state elected Attorney General's office. Now, there's been people questioning that, because the Attorney General's office really isn't a criminal office, but I think it needs to be at least someone who's held accountable by election, not some appointed board or something, and so that the people ultimately has the say. And the other thing that needs to be done is, in the state of Texas, these district attorneys have total immunity. There's nothing you can do to a district attorney that uses their position for political gains. There's nothing you can do to a district attorney for what some people call prosecutorial misconduct. There's got to be a remedy for that. So that's over the heads of these district attorneys in Texas. That if they go it this way, if they use their position to get a political enemy, there are consequences.
So right now they can go after anybody they want for any reason they want,
Yeah.
with no grounds whatsoever, and there's nothing that can be done to someone who's had to spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars defending themselves against the state.
That's exactly right. That's
Wow.
what I'm told by the lawyers. That's what I understand. And so I just think Rick Perry needs to understand that this certainly is a legal battle that he's in, and he's got what seem to be some very competent lawyers. But at the same time, it's a political show trial, and he needs to treat it that way. And there's many different ways that you can do that. But the other side is going to treat it as a political show trial, and so Rick Perry needs to deal with it as a political trial. So you have to make political decisions. One of them that I had suggested to him is call a special session. He's only going to be governor for a few more months. Call a special session and reform this office. And the debate of that and the visibility of that will certainly bring the people of Texas, at least, to understand what's going on here.
I think the average voter in Texas probably doesn't understand the ramifications of the power of that particular office.
No, they don't, because unfortunately, other than Breitbart, the media in Texas is super liberal. Doesn't matter where you are, but certainly is in Austin, Texas. And they're not telling the right side of the story. So use the power of your office to tell the story, and make sure that you don't shirk. From playing this trial out in the public, so that the public sees what's going on here. He's got that, and at least the initial efforts by Rick Perry's lets me know that he understands this, because he's holding press conferences, he's going out there making speeches, he's telling me he's not shirking, and they haven't cowered him. He's not sitting in some corner sucking his thumb. He's out there punching away, and I think that's good.
Well, a lot of people say a lot of things about Rick Perry, but dumb politician is not one of them.
That's not one of them. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Well, Congressman, thank you for your time today, for coming to Breitbart, Texas, to talk about your situation and how that ties in with the governor. We hope that this message will get out and people will take some action to reform this office so that these powers and abuses can't continue in the future.
I appreciate that, Bob. Great being with you. Thank you.